Well, hello, my name is Dan Hendrickson. I'm the author of Brandy, Ballad of a Pirate Princess. This is my book right here that I wanted to introduce people to. And I tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. I grew up in Sheridan, Wyoming. I was born in 1962, and I stayed there for the first 20 years of my life. Then when I went to college, I moved to Casper, Wyoming for a couple of years, and then on to Emporia, Kansas for a couple of years. I got a degree in journalism and practical theology. I'm married with 3 children. They're all grown. I have 1 granddaughter. And I presently live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where I run a dealership, auto detail shop, and body shop, and I write part-time. And that's a lot about me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I guess we can get into the questions now. What inspired you to pursue writing?
Well, really, it was my father, Carl Hendrickson. My dad was an English professor, among other things. He was also an inventor and a small business owner. And he loved to write poetry and plays. And he did have a couple published in the library of the University of Wyoming. And he was one of the most prolific readers I've ever met in my life. That man would have a book in every room of the house, and he would be reading them simultaneously. Sometimes when my brother and I would go to the bookstore, go to the library, we'd bring a book home. It would take us a week or 2 to read them, but he would take that book and read it within a day or 2, so he'd have something to talk to us about. So I always loved reading, and I developed an aptitude to want to learn how to write. And that's why I pursued journalism.
Yeah, he sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to pursue historical fiction as a genre and select the era that you did for your Ballad of a Pirate Princess novel?
Well, I grew up reading books like Captain Horatio Hornblower by C.S. Forster. Also, I've watched the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, of course, and I loved Treasure Island and different stories like that. I love Captain Blood, the movies back in the 50s and the 60s. And I've always loved that era. It's always been exciting to me. I love the high seas adventure. I love the whole British Navy thing and fighting pirates and stuff like that. And it's just always been a passion of mine to watch movies and read books like that. So it was really easy to transition to writing a story about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think everybody loves the Pirate of the Caribbean and those types of movies. So it's nice to see that in a book. So can you describe your purpose in writing Brandy, Ballad of a Pirate Princess? And what did you hope that readers would take away from reading your work?
Well, one thing I know after doing a bunch of research on pirates is they weren't very good people. And they are kind of romanticized, especially in the movies like Pirates of the Caribbean. And really, they were slavers. They were cutthroats. They weren't the kind of people you want to be around. And so I thought with Brandy, Brandy, Ballad of a Pirate Princess, I'd try to expose that and then show somebody's transition out of that lifestyle and into those who would actually fight against it. And really, honestly, the pirates were probably in the latter part of the first half of the 19th century, the biggest slave transporters in the world. They were the ones that were going to Africa and picking up the slaves and bringing them to North America. And that's what I showed in the book Brandy. And I also showed the abolitionist movement in the Caribbean, which not many people in the United States know about, but there was a whole bunch of people down there using ships to help those slaves escape and get to the Maroons in the Caribbean where they could live freely. And so I showed that Brandy was born into a pirate family, but chose to aid those people instead. And so I had the romanticism of the pirates, but also the reality of what was really going on back then.
Yeah, it's interesting that you tied all those like history movements that are definitely not like taught in regular history classes in school here because like I didn't know about those history events. So how do you balance your writing career, your established career in the business world, and your personal life? Because it seems like it's a lot to juggle.
That's a really hard question to answer. It is a juggling act. Usually when I get up in the morning, I get to work about 45 minutes more than any of my employees. I get the place opened up, then I go hide in my office for about an hour, and that's when I get a lot of writing done. Then I'll go out and get them started and talk to customers and get the place rolling, and maybe I might get another half an hour, hour in after that. And then after that, it's just whenever I can. And taking notes and doing research and stuff happens a lot at night after I come home. But yeah, it's a big balancing act. And some weeks I do a lot more than other weeks. One week I might only get maybe 500 words written, and then the next week I might do 2,000. Just depends on what kind of time I got that week.
And how has your formal education translated to your writing? You mentioned a degree in theology and journalism.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like about my journalism background is that, I was trained to write in the third person present tense. And we were shown in journalism that keeps your reader right there with what was going on at the time. And I thought, wow, this would be a great way to, write a story. And it almost makes it feel like you're watching a movie, because you're seeing not just the protagonist's point of view or the antagonist's point of view, but you're kind of seeing everybody's point of view. And so I feel like journalism really gave me that insight into writing as far as wanting to do it with fiction. And I think it's had some good success, and I've had some good comments and feedback from that style of writing. I don't think I'll change anytime soon, because I really like it and it's what I'm used to.
And what is your advice for aspiring writers hoping to write their own book?
I would say just never give up. Write what you like and like what you write. And, work your writing hard enough to the point that when you're done, you'll love what you wrote. And I mean, everybody's got to edit, everybody's got to go back over their work and check it for accuracy and for all the other things that maybe can be real annoying at times, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. For me, the funnest part about writing is writing the first draft, because all you do is you just write. You write your story, you get it down. Maybe there's a little teeny bit of editing while you're doing it, but you're just trying to get the story out. And that's great. And I think most of us enjoy that. I think the daunting part is going back over it and correcting it and making it make sense and making it logical. Don't let yourself get bogged down with that, and if you're not that good at that, get help. There's plenty of people out there that know how to edit. There's plenty of professionals looking for work. If you got the finances to do it, that you can hire. And you can get better over time. You start learning things. You don't make the same mistakes over and over again. You will get better at it. So yeah, what I'd say is don't give up, pursue your passion, and get to the point that you love everything that you write.
Yeah, I think that's really important advice. So that's all the questions that I had for you. But is there anything else that you want to add about your book or being an author in general?
Well, I'm continuing writing. I do have another book out. It's called The Living Legend. And I've had it reviewed by Online Book Club, and they've given me a wonderful review on it. And I'm looking forward to pursuing that one as well. It's another action adventure. And I got several more books on the back burners that I'm thinking about writing. So I probably won't quit. And it's been really fun being here. And thank you so much for this interview.
Yeah, so I have a little follow-up question to that then. Are you building a series, or are these all standalone stories?
Well, what I tried to do, and like I'm fairly new at this. I've only been doing this since 2017. But what I tried to do is write each one of my books as a standalone book, but they are part of a series. My first 3 books are called the Last Enemy series, and they're all connected. And then the next 3 books are prequels to those books. And then Brandy Ballad of a Pirate Princess does tie in to all 6 of my books. They just have, you kind of have to pay attention. But yeah, so I do like writing about a bloodline, which is basically all my books are the same family over generations and the different adventures that they've had and different things they've accomplished and went through. And yeah, so far, even at my 7th book, I'm basically working with a lot of the same characters, but I have written them to the point where I believe that they are standalone stories, and that anybody could pick up any one of my books and read them and be fine without having read the other ones.
I mean, that's really cool that you've kept like that same kind of like theme throughout your books then with the same family. But what order would you recommend your readers read your books in then? Do you
Well,
recommend reading them first?
the first three books are The Good Fight, The Cartel Crusher, and The Last Enemy. And they tell a complete story. It's really on, as timeline goes, it's really available to either read The Good Fight or The Cartel Crusher first. You can read it in one of those books first. And then The Last Enemy kind of, culminates that story. Okay. Then the next book I wrote after that was a Western called The Legend of Deputy Jim. And it's a prequel to those books. He's actually the grandfather in the book, and this is about his youth and when he was a deputy sheriff in Sheridan, Wyoming. The next book after that I wrote was a book called The Commander, and it's the backstory of Commander Jacob Edwards, who is probably the main character throughout all three of my first books, next to his daughter Danielle and the Cartel Crusher Mania. So that book is completely about him and how he got started. And then the next book after that was Brandy, Ballad of Pirate Princess. And, these people are in the same family line. And then the last book I wrote was a book called The Living Legend. And it's actually about the man who trained Jacob Edwards, Commander Jacob Edwards, to be a special force operative. And he's a United States Navy SEAL that went into the program in the early 1970s. And it's a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, they all sound interesting. I'm gonna have to read them all.
Oh, thank you.
So I guess then that's all the questions that I had. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. And for everybody watching the video, if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you so much.